addition to being crowned Ms. California 2013, Christina Meredith has spoken to Congress, opened for the Special Olympics, and runs a nonprofit. Her passion project is to help the children in America's foster care system. It's an issue close to her heart because she used to be part of the foster care system herself.
Growing up, Christina Meredith suffered years of physical, psychological, and sexual abuse before entering the foster care system as a teenager. After aging out of the system, she became homeless and lived in her car to survive. A few years later, her life was changed when she was crowned Miss California. In her memoir, Cinder Girl, Christina shares her story of overcoming her past and what she's doing to help protect other children who are abused and neglected.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Christina Meredith. It's wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
What a story you have to tell. I so want to hear what you have to say about the foster care system because it's a system that really needs help. But let's tell your story first.
Sure.
You open your book with a moment from your childhood where you're playing with the Barbie doll and Ninja Turtle, and then suddenly you hear a commotion downstairs and just some thumping and bumping. What was going on?
My parents were arguing over money.
Which wasn't unusual.
No, not at all. I mean, my father would be gone for days at a time working 2-3 jobs to provide for 8 kids, and he would send money home so my mother could pay the bills, and she wouldn't use the money for what she was supposed to, so confrontation was often.
Well, and with a lot of children. I mean, there's a lot of expense involved in that, so if you misuse the budget, you're
in trouble.
In trouble. What was your relationship with your mother?
I wouldn't say there was a relationship. I think that's too kind of a word. I think I existed with her.
But you, of all the children, Christina, seemed to just poke at a certain thing in her that made her furious. Why do you think that happened?
I think the cycle of abuse is a real thing, and my mother grew up in an abusive home, and she was abused herself. And also, out of all my siblings, I was the only one who resembled my mother, who was light hair, light skin. You know, my father's Italian, and so my siblings are all dark skin, dark hair. And so I think when she looked at me, I reminded her of herself.
Yeah.
I think it was easy
a lot of self-hatred
to project
there.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It was amazing to me as I read your story how long it took for someone to rescue you. How did you finally get out of there?
ROTC. I was in the junior naval ROTC program at Nice High School.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, no, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I love, you know, the military has been such a huge part of my life since I was 14, and I'm so privileged and honored to be a servant leader in and out of uniform now. But yeah, ROTC, my first sergeant and my master chief, they saved me. They saved my life for sure. Why
do you think prior to that there was so much visible, if someone didn't interpret it as abuse, it certainly would have been serious neglect. Why do you think nobody did anything?
I think it's easy to turn away. I think it's difficult to see a problem and to address it. I mean, how many times are you in the grocery store and you see a mother or father hit their child in an aggressive manner, and what do you quickly do? I didn't see that. You quickly run away because it takes sacrifice and responsibility to address a situation.
So at one point, you're put into the foster care system. What was that like for you?
So I was placed in long-term non-relative placement, and I was with my ROTC teacher. So for me, it was amazing, the almost 2 years that I was there. I mean, I loved First Sergeant and his wife. They were so good to me, and I had food, and I had my own bed, things I'd never had before, and you know, it was great. It was difficult merging a healthy family with a traumatized child. I mean, no one prepares you for that. So I didn't know how to function in a healthy home. I mean, I didn't know what
healthy looked like.
Right, and basic things like sharing. You know, they had girls, and so I would go in their room and I would take their things, not having any concept of, you have to ask.
Belongs to them.
Because at my house, if there was, you know, a can of mac and cheese or, you know, a tuna or a cup of milk, you shared that.
Yes.
If there's clothes, you share your clothes. I mean, we wore hand-me-downs. So I had no concept of self-identity or boundaries. I was a hot little mess in high school, you know. I would hide food still, and so, you know, they would come in and like, you know, Chris, you don't have to hide food anymore. You can get it when you want. But I had no concept of that.
Yeah.
I was still living out of fear and survival.
You know, one of the things that struck me in a story that you tell in the book is how we as society need to be aware of children that we see in our lives. You talk about going to high school with Tim Tebow and his dad coming over and speaking to you several times, really, because your mom was supposed to pick you up at school after this sporting event or whatever you were doing.
ROTC practice.
ROTC practice, and repeatedly never came. And there you sat alone, waiting for her.
Yeah.
I mean, being noticed could have changed things earlier for you, don't you think?
I think even in that small act of kindness when Mr. Tebow would walk over, you know, because the only other kid was his son, and he was getting special coaching, and I was sitting on the sidewalk a good distance away from the football field just waiting. His teachers had left. And I think him noticing me and coming up to me like, hey, young lady, what are you doing here on the sidewalk? In a stern look. So when he first came up to me, I was very intimidated. And then when I told him I was waiting for my mother and sometimes she doesn't come get me, his whole demeanor changed, and he just, can I pray for you? I'll never forget that. And so afterwards, whenever he'd see me, he'd just come and pray, you know.
When you graduated, what did you do?
I graduated and then I moved into my car. I took a real step up in life. You know,
well, in some ways,
yeah.
In some ways, yes.
Yeah, I think I was dealt a bad hand, and you know, I tried really hard. I never did drugs. I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't sleeping around. Like, I was a good girl. Which is
astonishing, really.
Again, I think it's the kindness of the Lord just being gracious to me. And also, I had the wisdom to know that I didn't get the opportunity to be stupid. There was no one coming for me if I had done, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I didn't have that.
You ruined your life,
That's
ruined your
right.
life.
I had one opportunity, one shot. And so when I was homeless, I read my Bible every day, and I worked 2-3 jobs, and I believed and stuck to the word that, you know, my life was going to change and I could change the world.
What was the turning point for you? I know ROTC started that. What was the turning point when you're homeless, you're living in your car? I mean, you continued to believe that somehow life was gonna get better.
I think, you know, I started having these dreams of writing a book, dreams of speaking to thousands, dreams of wearing these beautiful dresses, and, you know, all of these dreams of my future husband and my family, and I hated them. They drove me crazy. And then once I started to allow those dreams to get into my heart, and I began dreaming and dreaming on top of the dreams, then that's what changed. I started journaling and writing down, okay, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna tell my story. I'm gonna write this dream down. And then I started my 1, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan, which we're in year 12 if you wanted to know. And, you know, and that's how I stayed hopeful, my dreams.
Along comes the Ms. California competition, and, you know, a lot of people would have said, I can't do that. What am I thinking? I mean, I'm not qualified. What was it in you that said, you know what, this is an opportunity, it's a platform for the things that matter to me, and I'm going for it?
Well, I certainly wasn't qualified, but I think I just have this, I don't know what it is about me. Even if I fail, I'm going to try. Yeah. Because I have failed hundreds of times more than I've ever been successful. And I think that tenacity in me, I'm just,
get
you
up,
know,
dust
I'm going
to,
to, just get up and do it. And, you know, if it came to nothing, then I had an experience that I would have never had before. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And obviously it turned out great.
What do you want to do with the foster care system? What's your vision for that?
So the foster care crisis is a national crisis. And it really disturbs me that our country and our leaders in the country aren't doing anything about our orphans. And so my entire platform has been for years is to reform the foster care system in its entirety. I mean,
it needs it from the ground floor up.
Yes, ma'am. And it's possible. Will it take a long time? Will it take intention and meticulous thinking and problem solving and a whole hundreds and thousands of people and organizations to do it? Absolutely. But it can be done.
Yes.
It can absolutely be done, and it needs to be, because what we're doing is a disservice to our communities and our families.
Journey of 1,000 years begins with a single step, right? That is just a part of Christina's story, and we are skimming the surface of all she's been through. You need to get her book. It's called Cinder Girl, My Journey Out of the Ashes to a Life of Hope, and you can find it in stores nationwide. Wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate you.
Great to hear what God's doing in your life.
Yes, thank you.